Hey, this is Mo from the Mobile Marvel, and today I'm reviewing the iPhone Air. Let's go. So first, let's talk a little bit about the form factor here, because that is really the key feature of this device, which is the 5.6 millimeter thickness, the 165 grams weight, the premium titanium build and feel. The only device that Apple's making still in titanium is this device. And just how comfortable this honestly feels in my hands. I've been using it now for just over 2 weeks, and I will have to say it. This is the most comfortable device I've ever owned. It's super comfortable in my hands. It's almost weightless when I put it in my pocket. I don't even realize it's there. No other device I've either owned or reviewed feels this good in my hands. But to achieve this, Apple has made a ton of compromises. But before we get into the compromises, let's actually talk about some of the pros of this phone. So of course, there is that form factor. There is also something I like, and I don't know if this is going to affect a lot of you, but something I really like is that the fact that Apple puts a lot more buttons on their phone than a lot of the Android devices that I review. So with Android, you typically get 2 buttons. You get a volume rocker and you get your power button. But with Apple, you get your power button here, you get your camera control. I'll get into that camera control in a little bit. You get your volume rocker, which is also separated, and you get an action button. And I really like that action button because it's just so useful and it's so multifunctional. We've seen Android devices like certain Vivos that have an action button as well, but all the iPhones have them, and I really like it. The one button that I'm not really kind of understanding why Apple does it is this camera control, because iPhones already have 2 ways to take a photo. One is the on-screen tap to take a photo, and the other is the volume down button, because this button's actually quite difficult to reach with your thumb right here. But even if you're holding it like this, you don't have to hold it this way. You can also hold it this way. And again, the volume down button is pretty easy to press. So this button is pointless. I would prefer if it just wasn't there actually. But if Apple wants to give it more usability, more functionality, then maybe it does make sense. I'm somebody that does actually prefer buttons over touch gestures for everything. I do like buttons, but this is a perfect example of a useless button. Sorry, just rambling on the whole button thing. This is a titanium frame, right? Why did Apple have to make it so freaking glossy? It is. Even with a microfiber, I'm constantly cleaning it, and it's for my B-roll, and it's just impossible. So sorry if my B-roll has fingerprints on it. There was just no way to get it off this, like really, really hard. And the device wobbles. If this plateau that Apple calls it, if the camera was flush, and the only one sensor they have in here, they could have just made this flush. This would be awesome in that sense. Like, it would not wobble. The device wobbles considerably, and it's very annoying. Okay, now let's move on to the displays. Apple has finally given us 120 hertz across its entire lineup. Thank you, Apple. At least 5 years more than most other Android competitors out there, who are also, by the way, now some of them are giving you 144 hertz displays, not just 120 hertz. And Apple's also calling this ProMotion. I will say one thing: Apple's color calibration and the fact that they use 10-bit color gamut instead of 8-bit like a lot of Android competitors does make this display super vibrant, super natural, and the colors look so nice to look at. So I will give them that. It does. It is a stunning display. Probably one of the best ones. I mean, for all of the iPhone 17s, not just the Air that I have in hand here, but for all of them, it does look great. This is also Ceramic Shield 2 that Apple has given us here. Again, on all the devices this year. And it does have anti-reflective properties. It's nowhere near as good as what the S25 Ultra is, but Samsung only gives that to you on one of their devices. On all the other devices, You don't get that, and Apple's given it to you for all their devices. And it's not as good, but it does help. And this also has 3000 nit peak brightness. So no matter how bright it is out there, you're going to be fine. You're going to be able to see your content on your screen no matter what, which is nice. Now, let's move on to the cameras. So to compare the shots of this camera, I put it against the Xiaomi 17 Pro. That's another device I'm currently actually testing out and reviewing. So I thought, why not? One thing I need to point out is this comes with a 48 megapixel fusion sensor. Again, that's more of a marketing gimmick. There's no such thing as a fusion sensor. All it really is, Apple's main lenses, by the way, are not very similar to your Android lenses, which mostly shoot 12 megapixel by default. Apple's usually shoot 24 megapixel by default. So you do see there is more detail in your basic iPhone shots. And also what you will see is it is a little bit wider than your standard Android phones, which I like, which I think is nice. One more thing, just need to point this out, is Apple's menus for their cameras. It really is like a point and shoot. It's very simple. It just makes life a lot easier. I think with a lot of Androids, I'm kind of fidgeting around and I'm like, oh, this doesn't look right. Oh, I need to switch to the 50 megapixel. I need to do this. I need to do that. I like that. With Apple, it's just straightforward. Apple's now giving you dual capture. What that basically means, if you're shooting some content in front of you and you want to get your reactions as well, you can do that. If you're like at a sports game and you want to see your reactions and at the same time capture the footage, you can do that. Something that Samsung's had again for years. One thing that is actually very nice across the entire 17 lineup is this new square selfie sensor. It shoots at either 18 megapixels or 12 megapixels, depending on the aspect ratio. But that honestly is really nice because what that does is it also, by the way, need to point this out, it does have center stage. So something similar, if you have a Mac, you'll know what center stage is. But if two more people get into the shot, like right now, if I'm taking a shot with the selfie camera, if two more friends pop into the image, the camera will zoom out to capture them, which I think is great because instead of fiddling around and, if you're like at a lunch of 3 people or 4 people or 2 people, whatever it is, and, you have to be like, asking somebody, can you take a photo of us? Can you do this? You don't need to do that anymore because just holding the phone like this, it's pretty simple to do. And, it is a lot easier to take photos in portrait mode like this than to tilt your phone and then kind of do that. And then it's a lot more complicated. So I like that you can kind of now do that just holding the phone like this. I like it. I think that's a great add-on feature. And I wish more Android phones get this feature in the years to come.
And here you can also take a selfie. Still holding the phone in portrait mode, but you're taking a landscape selfie video, which is pretty nice. Unique because it uses square sensor instead of the regular rectangle sensor. So usually you'd have to shift the phone into landscape. Here you don't have to do that. Again, what do you think? Yep, just did a 360 there. It's 18 megapixels as well. Pretty nice.
Now, next up, we're going to talk about the compromises, right? So in the camera department, Apple's given us one sensor. The Samsung S25 Edge gave us 2 sensors. But at $1,000, is one sensor enough? For me, being a reviewer, I take shots of everything. And when I say that, I mean like when I'm testing devices out, I'm obviously testing the macro shots, the zoom capabilities, the ultra wides. But in my day-to-day, everyday life, I would say 90 to 95%, and if I went through my gallery, and I'm pretty sure that's accurate, are taken with the main sensor. And you always have to remember, Apple's main sensor is a little bit more wider than most Android devices. So far, in my personal life, and I've used this device now for about 2 weeks in my personal life, I haven't seen too much of an issue. Yes, there were a couple of occasions I would have liked to have an ultra wide, but I have not missed a telephoto at all, or macro shots at all. I do like macro shots, by the way, but again, I'm a 2 device person, so maybe it's harder for me to comprehend not being able to take a macro shot ever. But if you're on a holiday, for example, and you have like a monument or something you want to capture behind you, that ultra wide will come in really, really handy. Under this device, you're getting a single mono speaker. When was the last time you heard that? I don't even remember hearing a mono speaker till this device for a long, long time.
Please do like and subscribe, and we really appreciate. We've got to 400 subs, and we really appreciate that. Thank you, everybody, for supporting me through this journey. Much love, and I hope I can still keep making awesome content for all of you.
Moving on to the batteries, that's where I was actually quite surprised. Or maybe I've just been using foldable phones for too long, but I've been getting anywhere, and it's very inconsistent. On certain days, I'm getting about 6 hours of on-screen time, and there are certain days I'm getting up to 8 hours. So I'll just average this out and say you're going to get about 7 hours of on-screen time, and I don't see that being a very bad thing for what this device really is. It's that really comfortable, really light, really slim device in your hand. So if you go buy a Pro or a Pro Max, for sure you're going to get more on-screen time and off-screen time, but you're not going to get this form factor. So that is something. So that is it's a trade-off. Another thing is the performance of this device. Now, this device has an A19 Pro chip, and we've all seen the benchmarks, right? The benchmarks are very clear. This device doesn't even perform as well as the standard 17. Again, those are benchmarks, and this is day-to-day use. In my day-to-day use, I've been okay. However, when I'm gaming for more than 15 to 20 minutes, just right under this plateau, because, again, Apple, this is mostly battery, and this is where all or majority of the components of this device are. The upper 1/3 of this device gets blazing hot to a point where I have to stop gaming. In terms of gaming, it hasn't really throttled me too much, but about 20 minutes in or 30 minutes in, I have to stop gaming because it's just too hot to hold in landscape mode. Otherwise, I haven't really seen too much of thermal throttling. There's been a couple of occasions where I'm on a video call, or when the network, I'm getting 1 bar, or like in a low reception area, I am seeing a little bit of throttling on this device, but nothing major. Another thing is most of the heat in this device is always going to be in this top third. So even if the device is getting really warm and you're holding it in portrait like this, like a normal phone, you're actually not going to feel most of that heat up here. But obviously, as I said, if you're watching videos, it shouldn't happen when you're watching videos, but when you're playing a game, it does become quite challenging when you're holding the phone like this. I need to talk about this. iOS is years and years for me behind in terms of AI. I'm just going to put up an image. Now, this image is from the eraser, or as Apple calls it, cleanup. On one side, you have the Pixel, and on the other side, you have the iPhone. And I'm actually going to show you in the middle the actual image. And you can see the vast difference of what Pixel is achieving with its eraser in comparison to what Apple is achieving. The same image. And it's really, really bad. And cleanup is the only AI feature in the camera app for Apple. There isn't anything else. Whereas that isn't Google's or Android's only feature. Most Android devices have a lot more AI features with their photo editing tools. This isn't the only one. But even for the single one, Apple cannot get it right. And let's not even talk about Siri.
Hey Siri, how thick is the iPhone Air? Hey Siri. Hey Siri. Hey Siri. How thick is the iPhone Air? How thick is the iPhone Air? Hey Google. How thick is the iPhone Air?
iPhone Air measures 5.6 millimeters thick.
Also, iOS 26 also did something, which is liquid glass. And I think Apple really committed to this whole liquid glass look. And it does look nice. The animations are nice. I personally don't like it that much. One more compromise is in the US, all the iPhones are eSIM only. However, outside of the US, all the other iPhones usually have one physical SIM and an eSIM, or even dual physical SIMs and no eSIMs. However, this device globally is eSIM only. Now let's talk about the final thoughts. Should you go out and pick up this $1,000 iPhone? No. Unless the form factor is your main concern. If you just want a really comfortable phone in your hand. And again, this is not something anybody was asking for. This is just something Apple and Samsung have kind of given us, the slim form factor. This is not something we were like craving for or we were like calling out for. No. Most people were probably calling out Apple to deliver a foldable device, but we didn't get that. Instead, we got this. So my answer is no. Unless you really, really need that form factor and you do want a really light phone and that's the most important thing to you out there. But I think the standard iPhone 17 or the Pro or Pro Max do make a lot more sense. I think there are too many compromises here. This has been Mo from the Mobile Marvel. Please do like and subscribe. It does really help us out. And also, please do check out the mobilemarvel.com. If you're looking to pick up, and not this device, but any of the Android devices from Chinese manufacturers like Vivo's, like Oppo's, like Xiaomi's, please do check out the mobilemarvel.com. We do have you covered there. We have the best prices and we ship globally. This is Mo checking out. By the way, I just want to mention this. What do you guys think of this location? I'm actually outdoors right now. I don't know. Does this make more sense? Or is my usual indoor location the better one? Please do let me know in the comments down below.